The nickname Waity Katie originated in the mid-2000s British tabloid culture, a media environment notorious for reducing complex social realities into catchy, often cruel labels. At the time, Kate Middleton had been in a long-term relationship with Prince William without an engagement, an unusual situation in the public's imagination of royal romance. The press seized on this ambiguity and turned it into mockery. On the surface, Waity Katie sounded lighthearted, almost teasing. In reality, it carried a sharp judgment. The term framed Kate as a woman defined by waiting for a proposal, waiting for validation, waiting for elevation. It implied passivity, dependency, and a lack of agency. Crucially, it positioned time itself as a measure of her worth. The nickname did not emerge because Kate was doing nothing. She was working, maintaining a private life, and navigating unprecedented scrutiny. But none of this fit the narrative the media preferred. Waiting was easier to package than endurance, and ridicule more profitable than nuance. Waity Katie also reflected a deeper cultural discomfort with female patience. A woman who does not demand, threaten, or leave disrupts familiar storylines. The label functioned as a corrective, an attempt to shame Kate back into behavior the public could easily understand, such as issuing ultimatums or exiting dramatically. In this sense, the nickname revealed more about societal expectations than about Kate herself. It was less a description of her reality and more a projection of collective impatience. Once the nickname gained popularity, the media began constructing an entire narrative ecosystem around the idea of Kate waiting. Every appearance became evidence, every absence a symptom. Photographs of her shopping alone or walking to work were framed as visual metaphors for emotional suspension. Ordinary routines were reinterpreted as signs of stagnation. Tabloids repeatedly asked the same questions. How long will she wait? Is she growing desperate? Will William ever commit? These headlines subtly shifted responsibility away from the institution and onto Kate. William's caution was framed as maturity. Kate's patience was framed as vulnerability. This imbalance was not accidental. The media thrives on asymmetry, and Kate's silence offered fertile ground for speculation. Because she did not respond, the narrative could not evolve. It could only repeat itself. Ironically, repetition exposed its own emptiness. By exaggerating the image of waiting, the press transformed a strategic pause into a personal flaw. They ignored the institutional reality of royal marriage, where timing is dictated not by romance alone, but by duty, readiness, and public stability. Over time, the narrative began to feel forced. The media needed Kate to appear desperate, but she never performed desperation. The more they insisted she was waiting, the clearer it became that she was, in fact, enduring. Beyond the tabloids, Kate faced immense social pressure, shaped by deeply ingrained gender expectations. Public commentary extended far beyond her relationship status into debates about age, fertility, ambition, and self-respect. Waiting too long was framed as foolish. Leaving was framed as failure. There was no acceptable middle ground. Unlike William, whose timeline was understood as prudent, Kate's was treated as problematic. Her value was measured not by her character or stability, but by the absence of a ring. This imbalance reflected a broader cultural pattern. Women are expected to progress relationally on a schedule, regardless of context. Friends, commentators, and anonymous voices projected their anxieties onto her choices. Kate became a stand-in for collective fear of wasted time, fear of power imbalance, fear of waiting without guarantees. The criticism was rarely about her, it was about what her patience represented. What made the pressure more intense was her refusal to respond. She neither defended herself nor adjusted her behavior to appease critics. This quiet resistance unsettled a society accustomed to emotional disclosure. Kate's composure challenged the assumption that silence equals weakness. By absorbing pressure without visible collapse, she quietly redefined patience as strength rather than submission. Kate Middleton's decision not to pressure Prince William into marriage was widely misinterpreted as passivity. In reality, it reflected acute situational awareness. She understood that a proposal extracted through public pressure or private ultimatums would weaken, not strengthen, her position. Royal marriages are not private contracts. They are public institutions. A rushed or coerced engagement would invite scrutiny, resentment, and instability. Kate recognized that longevity mattered more than speed. In this context, patience was not emotional inertia, it was risk management. By refusing to demand certainty, she allowed William space to choose freely. This choice protected both of them. A voluntary commitment carries legitimacy, a pressured one invites doubt. Kate's restraint ensured that when commitment came, it would be unquestioned. Her strategy also reframed power. Waiting on her own terms preserved dignity. She continued working, socializing, and existing independently, signaling that marriage was a choice, not an escape. In the end, the label Waity Katie failed because it misunderstood the strategy. She was not waiting to be chosen. She was waiting for alignment. During the years labeled as waiting, Kate Middleton was far from inactive. Her personal choices during this period reveal a deliberate effort to maintain autonomy while remaining emotionally grounded. Rather than placing her life on hold, she continued working, built professional experience, and preserved a routine separate from Prince William's royal trajectory. This was a critical distinction often ignored by the public narrative. Kate chose visibility without exhibition. She appeared in public enough to remain present, yet never enough to invite oversaturation. Socially, she maintained a circle that was stable and discreet, avoiding associations that could attract controversy or tabloid exploitation. These decisions reflected an understanding that every choice, however small, would be interpreted through a royal lens. She also avoided dramatic gestures, no public reinvention, no symbolic statements of independence designed for attention. Her lifestyle communicated balance rather than defiance. By choosing normalcy, she resisted being consumed by the waiting narrative. Importantly, Kate preserved emotional boundaries. She did not define her identity publicly through her relationship, nor did she perform longing. This allowed her to retain personal dignity and credibility. Her choices suggested a long-term perspective. She was not preparing for engagement alone, but for a life of sustained scrutiny. In retrospect, these decisions functioned as self-training. Kate used the waiting period not to pause her life, but to strengthen it quietly, ensuring she entered the next phase from a position of internal stability rather than dependence. The public often confuses endurance with passivity, particularly when silence is involved. In Kate Middleton's case, this confusion fueled the Waity Katie narrative. Yet endurance is an active state. It requires constant self-regulation, emotional control, and conscious restraint. Passivity, by contrast, implies surrender. Kate's behavior demonstrated endurance. She made consistent choices that protected her autonomy while respecting the realities of royal life. She did not react impulsively, but she did not disappear either. Her presence was intentional, measured, and controlled. Passivity would have meant allowing others to define her entirely. Instead, Kate maintained boundaries. She continued to live a structured life, signaling that waiting did not equate to emptiness. Her silence was not absence, it was containment. This distinction matters because the monarchy rewards endurance. Institutions built on continuity require individuals who can absorb pressure without destabilizing the system. Kate's restraint aligned with this value system. By enduring without protest, she demonstrated compatibility with an environment where emotional expression is secondary to institutional stability. Her strength lay not in confrontation, but in composure, an active choice, misunderstood by those expecting visible resistance. The waiting years functioned as an informal apprenticeship. Kate learned how to manage scrutiny, how to remain emotionally consistent, and how to separate personal identity from public projection. These lessons would later define her success within the royal framework. She learned that silence can be protective rather than limiting. By observing how narratives formed without her participation, she understood the futility of reactive explanation. This awareness sharpened her self-discipline. Kate also learned patience as a strategic skill. Time revealed character, both hers and William's. She learned that certainty cannot be forced without consequence. Most importantly, she learned resilience without hardness. She did not become cynical or closed. Instead, she developed a calm confidence rooted in self-knowledge. By the time the waiting ended, Kate was no longer preparing to become royal. She already was, internally. Publicly, the royal family never acknowledged the nickname Waity Katie. This silence was not indifference, it was doctrine. The monarchy does not respond to tabloid mockery because engagement legitimizes it. By refusing to comment, the institution maintained distance, allowing the narrative to exhaust itself without interference. Privately, however, the label was not ignored. It highlighted the growing pressure surrounding Prince William's personal life and the media's impatience with royal timelines. For the palace, the nickname reinforced the need for caution rather than speed. A marriage conducted under ridicule would appear reactive, undermining the monarchy's image of composure. Importantly, the palace did not intervene to defend Kate publicly. This absence of protection functioned as another layer of assessment. Could she withstand public labeling without institutional shelter? Her ability to do so quietly reassured senior royals that she could tolerate the isolation inherent in royal roles. The royal family's non-response also signaled confidence in Kate's conduct. There was no attempt to rebrand or redirect attention. Silence allowed time to perform its corrective function. As the years passed and Kate remained consistent, the nickname lost potency. In royal logic, endurance neutralizes mockery. The institution's reaction, therefore, was not to fight the label, but to outlast it, testing both Kate and the narrative itself. Kate's public image did not shift through sudden reinvention, it evolved through accumulation. Early portrayals emphasized waiting and uncertainty. Over time, these descriptors gave way to stability, reliability, and restraint. The change occurred not because Kate altered her behavior, but because consistency redefined perception. As years passed without scandal or emotional volatility, the waiting narrative grew incompatible with observable reality. Kate appeared composed, professionally engaged, and emotionally self-possessed. The public began to see patience not as delay, but as discipline. After engagement and marriage, retrospective narratives softened. The same patience once mocked was reframed as loyalty. Silence became strength. What had been labeled passivity was now interpreted as preparation. This shift reveals a key truth about public perception. Time rewards consistency. Kate did not manage her image aggressively, she allowed it to mature. In doing so, she demonstrated that reputations built slowly are more durable than those constructed through performance. Viewed through the lens of power, Waity Katie reads less as insult and more as misinterpretation. Power does not always announce itself through action. Sometimes it lies in refusal. Kate's decision not to respond, not to pressure, and not to perform disrupted expected power dynamics. She exercised soft power, the ability to shape outcomes without visible force. By remaining steady while others demanded resolution, she preserved leverage. William's eventual commitment carried greater legitimacy because it was uncoerced. In retrospect, the nickname underestimated her agency. Waiting was not submission, it was positioning. Time, often framed as her weakness, became her ally. In royal life, those who can wait often last the longest. Waity Katie, stripped of mockery, becomes evidence of strategic endurance, an early demonstration of the quiet authority Kate would later embody.